Microsoft has warned users of Windows 10 around the world to update their software as soon as possible to minimise the risk of cyber attacks now that support for the program has officially ended.
The Windows era is over and Microsoft know it.
That Windows 10 works great on these older computers. But Windows 11 goes in the complete opposite direction, has strict hardware requirements. And so if you don't have a newer processor in your computer, you can't install the operating system at all.
Something is breaking apart as Windows 10's end of support pushes users to abandon it. As millions of users are forced to abandon their trusted OS for the bloated, intrusive Windows 11, they're left with no choice but to either buy new hardware or risk becoming vulnerable to hackers and data breaches. And Bill Gates must be fuming as his once empowering creation has turned into a corporate monster that disrespects users and tramples their freedom.
Millions of people are going to have to figure out their next steps as Microsoft ended free security support for Windows 10.
End of life means you will not get security updates. I know that for $30 you can get an extra year of security updates from Microsoft, but after that...
After 30 years of dominance, Microsoft is burning its legacy by forcing users off the reliable Windows 10 and into the bloated, intrusive nightmare of Windows 11. They've traded innovation for cold, corporate greed. It's a calculated trap. Render perfectly good hardware obsolete to force a costly upgrade, or leave loyal users as sitting ducks for cyber threats. The era of empowering the user is dead. Now, it's all about squeezing profit from a betrayed fanbase.
Here's the problem. Some older computers can't upgrade to Windows 11. This essentially leaves millions of Windows 10 users, I should say, with a choice. Keep their outdated PC and risk exposing themselves to cyber attacks like getting hacked or getting data stolen, or get a whole new PC.
It's clear that the days of user-centered design are gone. Windows 10, which was beloved for its stability and user-friendliness, is now being replaced with Windows 11, a platform that constantly feels like it's pushing users into a corner, demanding more than they are willing to give. The legacy of trust that Microsoft built over decades is now crumbling, and with every move, it seems like they're driving loyal users away to alternatives.
Well, because Windows 10 is now deprecated. It no longer is being updated. When you turn your computer on and it runs this annoying update, most of the time that's for security reasons, because as hackers get more sophisticated, so too do the defenses against them. Now, Windows 10 is no longer being updated, which means that every computer running Windows 10, especially over time, will become more and more susceptible to cyber attack.
Windows 11's brutal hardware restrictions have left millions of users trapped in a corporate maze with no escape. Devices that once ran Windows 10 perfectly fine are now labeled obsolete simply because they don't meet the new requirements. Microsoft is pushing users to buy new devices, even though many of their current computers still perform flawlessly. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a forced upgrade that punishes users who can't afford to upgrade and leaves them with a vulnerable, unsupported system. The harsh reality is that Microsoft is now using its own loyal customers as pawns to fuel its hardware sales.
Now we know Windows is full of bloatware, it's full of Copilot and AI, it's had monstrosities added to it like the start menu, it's full of telemetry and data collecting.
The anger from users is palpable. This move is being seen as a money grab, designed to squeeze even more out of people who have already invested in their current devices. With no way to stay secure without a new purchase, many are now facing the cold truth. Forced obsolescence is Microsoft's new strategy. The company's shift from user-first to profit-driven motives has never been more obvious, and it's creating a massive divide between those who can afford the upgrade and those who are left behind, with their machines left vulnerable to cyber threats.
Microsoft has apparently had enough of being called Microslop and has officially banned the word from the official Copilot Discord server. Naturally, this went as well as you could probably expect. After the filter went live, users responded with the maturity of, well, Discord users and flooded the chat with creative variants of the Microsoft name, like Microslop with a 0 or Sloppy Soft.
Windows 11 has become a nightmare of forced features and intrusive AI. And it's not just annoying, it's hijacking your computer. The introduction of Copilot AI was supposed to be a productivity boost, but instead, It's become a resource-hungry monster that runs in the background of almost every application, constantly interrupting your workflow. Imagine trying to get work done while your system is constantly bogged down by an AI feature that no one asked for and that you can't turn off. It's like having a guest in your home who never leaves, making your PC feel more like a corporate-controlled surveillance tool than a personal device.
So technology is improving at a rapid rate and things are getting more and more difficult to understand. As we move into the future, hackers, cyber attacks get more sophisticated, and as we all know, Australia loves a cyber attack. I mean, it happens seemingly every month at this point, and so it means that as we move forward, the risk is going to increase. So perhaps today, perhaps not tomorrow, but in 6 months, in a year, as the software Windows 10 doesn't keep up with new risks being invented, being innovated, it means that the risk will mount and mount and mount, and it's already happened. It's just going to get worse.
And the privacy invasion? Windows 11 is a data harvesting machine. Every move you make, every click, every document you open, is being tracked and fed straight back to Microsoft's servers. You can't even use basic features like OneDrive without being pushed to give up even more of your personal data. For users who valued the privacy-first approach that once made Microsoft stand out, this is a massive betrayal.
Microsoft is aggressively prompting Windows 10 users to upgrade, employing full-screen ads that highlight Windows 11 features, particularly those on Copilot Plus PCs. These ads coincide with the approaching end of free security updates for Windows 10 in October 2025, while an extended security update or ESU program exists for a fee. The ads predominantly push new PC purchases. This aggressive marketing tactic isn't new for Microsoft.
But it doesn't stop there. Ads have infiltrated every corner of Windows 11. Start menu, File Explorer, and even the Settings menu are packed with promotions for services you've already paid for. Imagine being forced to pay for your system and then being bombarded by constant ads. It's a monetization nightmare, and it's clear that Microsoft cares more about pushing their profits than respecting your experience.
The owner of Genius IT Solutions in Lakewood says all these people getting rid of tech creates a different problem.
There is a lot of computer hardware that is going to be left essentially in the dust because they will not be able to upgrade to Windows 11 due to the requirements Microsoft is implementing.
Windows 11 has gone from a reliable system to a full-on corporate machine that's draining your resources and invading your privacy. Users are fighting back, looking for alternatives, and the anger is real. Because once a system you trusted turns on you like this, it's impossible to ignore.
A couple years ago, hardware researchers found that 43% of all computers running Windows 10 could not move to Windows 11, which equaled around 400 million computers at that time.
Windows 11's forced upgrades are not just a technical issue. They are a security nightmare waiting to explode. October 14th, 2025 is the day Windows 10's support ends, leaving millions of users stuck with systems that will become sitting ducks for hackers and cyber criminals. With no security updates, no patches, and no official fixes, Windows 10 is about to become a vulnerable time bomb. Ransomware attacks and data breaches will thrive as Microsoft abandons the very users it once swore to protect. Even with extended security updates, ESU, these updates are limited and won't address the growing number of vulnerabilities that will inevitably appear.
Of course, the people who run much older computers are exactly the people who can't afford new PCs. And really, none of us should have to replace tech that is working just because the manufacturer or the software company decides it's time for an upgrade.
If you're finding this information eye-opening, make sure to hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Here's the shocker. Microsoft is shutting the door on millions of users and forcing them to take huge risks. It's a bold strategy, but it's also a reckless one, leaving people exposed to viruses, malware, and cyber threats. Microsoft's excuse for this? The tired line that security is only achieved through the latest software versions.
There's been a lot of problems with Windows 11. We've had hardware requirements in place where some older computers can't officially install Windows 11 because Microsoft say so, and that caused major backlash for Microsoft because people just simply couldn't upgrade to Windows 11 on their old PC because Microsoft said so.
But users see through this and know the truth. This is a clever ploy to push upgrades, leaving users to deal with the consequences. And it gets worse. Windows 10 still works perfectly fine for many users, but Microsoft's decision to stop updates is making it almost impossible to safely continue using. Those still relying on Windows 10 will soon have to choose between upgrading or putting their data and security at risk.
In case you weren't aware, security updates are important. Any software is going to have some gaps in the security, and when a bug or exploit in the system is discovered, software companies issue updates to plug the gaps. But when you get no more updates, those gaps end up as wide open doors.
The backlash against Windows 11 is growing louder, and it's not just about unwanted features or bloated AI. It's about the trust that's been shattered. Despite Microsoft's relentless push, Windows 11's adoption is stalling. Users simply don't want to upgrade, and the reasons are piling up fast. From privacy invasions to intrusive ads and constant performance issues, the Windows 11 experience is far from the smooth transition users were promised. Instead, it's a frustrating ordeal that leaves many questioning whether they're better off sticking with Windows 10 or abandoning the platform altogether.
The Windows 11 has AI that watches everything you do. I'll never use it as my main OS. But I do use Windows 11 too, 1% of the time. 99% of the time I use Linux. While I might state clearly that you should abandon Windows and go to Linux,
this isn't just a small group of disgruntled users. Millions are abandoning Windows for alternatives like Linux and Mac OS, and the rise of Linux is becoming impossible to ignore. Linux, once considered a niche option for tech enthusiasts, is now gaining real traction. With Proton making it easier than ever for users to run Windows apps on Linux, the barriers to switching are rapidly crumbling. It's no longer just about tech-savvy users. Everyday people are beginning to see Linux as a legitimate replacement for Windows 11, especially as they grow frustrated with Windows surveillance, data collection, and forced upgrades.
And a lot of people just don't like it. There was issues with Copilot when it started getting embedded into all of the applications, and people were complaining about Copilot being injected into every application in the operating system and running in the background, and people just didn't want it.
And let's not forget Mac OS, which is climbing steadily in market share, especially among professionals and enterprises looking for stability, privacy, and performance that Windows 11 can no longer guarantee. The shift away from Microsoft is happening right before our eyes, and Windows is slowly but surely losing its grip on the market. It's a massive blow to a company that, for decades, held the reins of personal computing. Gates must be watching this with disbelief, knowing that the once unstoppable force of Windows is now losing ground to rivals it never expected would come close to competing with its dominance.
I'm suggesting that you reduce your use of Windows 10 to an occasionally used OS, and that alone reduces the attack footprint for hackers. And I'm also recommending a dual boot setup where you install Linux.
The growing loss of user trust in Windows 11 is nothing short of devastating for Microsoft. Windows 11, which was meant to be the next big leap forward, has become a source of constant frustration for many users. Telemetry data collection is non-stop, privacy concerns have skyrocketed, and the system feels more like a surveillance tool than a personal operating system. Microsoft, once a trusted partner in personal computing, is now viewed by many as a company that's more interested in exploiting data than providing a functional and secure experience.
This is the only safe way to move forward without getting a new computer and using Windows 11. If you're on Linux, you are going to be a lot safer from hacks than Windows, because generally it is harder to hack Linux and there are fewer exploits on Linux versus Windows.
The user-first philosophy that Gates instilled in Microsoft is now long gone. Windows 10 was built on a social contract between Microsoft and its users. You get a system that works, and Microsoft delivers reliable updates and support. But now, with Windows 11, Microsoft has broken that trust. Updates aren't reliable anymore, and features users didn't ask for are constantly pushed onto them. Gates' vision of creating a personal, customizable OS has been replaced by a corporate machine that limits control, forces upgrades, and invades privacy.
Microsoft have had a turmoil few years with Windows 11, botched Windows updates constantly being released to the general public and messing up their computer. We've had to do fresh installs, we've had black screens of death, we've had error codes popping up, we've had applications crashing, we've had the system crashing, we've had all sorts of stuff. We've even had data loss with Windows 11.
As Windows 10 finally phases out, its once loyal user base is being forced to choose between upgrading to Windows 11 or finding an alternative. But with the complex hardware requirements of Windows 11, many users are opting to leave the platform altogether. For those who are left behind, Windows 10 will continue to work for a while, but it will soon become obsolete, and they will be left with no option but to adapt or find new solutions. The rise of alternatives like Linux and Mac OS is not just a temporary trend, it's a shift in the computing landscape. Users are turning to systems that prioritize privacy, control, and stability, things that Windows 11 has failed to deliver.
People just hate on Microsoft and Windows and Bill Gates and the CEO of Windows. It's full of adverts everywhere, and this is the real big issue with Windows 11. A lot of people just don't like it.
Microsoft's shift to a cloud-first, AI-driven model has transformed Windows into a profit-driven platform, prioritizing subscriptions and data extraction over user experience. With Windows 11, features like telemetry, AI tools, and ads have intruded on workflows, pushing users into an ecosystem designed to monetize their data rather than empower them.
And of course, Linux will always get security updates, while your Windows 10 will not. Therefore, risky operations are better suited for Linux, and that will keep you going safely from here on.
In the past, Windows was trusted for its stability and reliability. Now, constant forced updates and subscription models have replaced ownership, locking users into a cycle of constant spending. As Windows 10 phases out, users are faced with either upgrading to Windows 11 or seeking alternatives like Linux or Mac OS, which offer privacy, control, and stability that Windows 11 fails to deliver.
About people installing Linux on their computers to get away from Windows and Mac.
The end of Windows 10 isn't just the end of an operating system. It's the end of Microsoft's golden era. The company that once dominated personal computing with its trusted platform has now alienated its core users in pursuit of new markets and services. The Windows 10 community is fracturing, and as it does, it's clear that Bill Gates' legacy of empowering users has faded into the background, replaced by a new Microsoft that is more focused on profits, cloud dominance, and data mining than on serving the people who once made it the king of computing. What do you think about Microsoft's shift to Windows 11? Is the push for forced upgrades and corporate control ruining what once made Windows great? Let me know in the comments below.